They're not trying to confuse anyone. They're simply not designed for surface-level legibility. The Sigma INFJ walks through life with a core that isn't externally mapped. They don't trail emotional breadcrumbs. They don't explain while in motion. They don't need to be decoded because they were never broadcasting in the first place. And yet, they are profoundly misunderstood. Not because they're unclear, but because most people only know how to read noise. Part 1: Unreadable by design. Most people signal continuously, likes, dislikes, approvals, disapprovals, through tone, volume, expression. It's an outward-facing stream designed for recognition. But Sigma INFJs don't traffic in broadcast emotion. Their internal experience runs parallel to the moment, not constantly filtered through it. While others narrate their reactions as they go, the Sigma INFJ is logging patterns, collecting data, and calibrating response. So they often appear unreadable, detached, indifferent. But it's not a lack of feeling. It's a lack of me to display. Their processing style is inverse to most. They observe first, reflect second, respond third, often when the moment has already passed. Their timelines of response aren't synchronized with the external pace. And because of that, they often get miscategorized. Quiet becomes arrogance. Stillness becomes coldness. Selectivity becomes elitism. They are not unreadable because they're hiding something. They're unreadable because their communication is selective, not reactive. Part 2: Intentional ambiguity. Sigma INFJs don't define themselves by what others expect to see. They shapeshift only when it serves clarity, not belonging. They're strategic with presence. Sometimes they'll lean in and reveal sharp insight mid-conversation. Other times, they'll say nothing at all and let someone reveal their entire hand uninterrupted. They aren't ambiguous because they're unsure. They're ambiguous because they understand the weight of interpretation. They've watched how quickly people project, how certainty gets confused with correctness, how emotional expression gets confused with truth. And so, they withhold. Not out of fear, but because not every moment deserves definition. They know that once they speak, people will lock onto the version of them that showed up that day. And Sigma INFJs refuse to be frozen like that, flattened into a role, a type, a label. So they choose silence until the moment calls for signal. And even then, it's measured. That restraint, it unsettles people. Because most are used to visibility as a social currency. But the Sigma INFJ deals in discretion. Part 3: Too slow to perform, too fast to manipulate. Misunderstanding often emerges not just from what they say or don't say, but from the tempo mismatch. The Sigma INFJ moves slow where others rush. They think longer, wait longer, and take their time arriving at conclusions. This confuses people who are used to impulsive clarity. To them, reflection looks like indecision. Caution looks like insecurity. But here's the paradox. When others are still reacting, the Sigma INFJ is already 3 moves ahead because they've been quietly tracking everything. What makes them even more misread is this double rhythm. They take time to form a bond. But once it's formed, they see what others miss instantly. They can sense lies embedded in tone, detect inconsistencies in a person's story, track microshifts in loyalty and energy. And when they act on these perceptions, others accuse them of being paranoid, cold, or dramatic because they never said anything until they disengaged. But Sigma INFJs don't explain their thresholds. They just leave when they've been crossed. So the people they walk away from are left confused, not realizing the Sigma INFJ already gave them time they didn't earn. Part 4. Strategic minimalism is misread as emptiness. People misread what they don't understand. And what they can't categorize, they often diminish. The Sigma INFJ's world is curated, not because they're rigid, but because they understand their limits. They don't keep noise around. Don't engage in obligation. Don't fake affection. Don't perform enthusiasm. And so, others assume they're aloof, unfeeling, even narcissistic. But what they really are, is exact. They don't say more than they mean. They don't give more than they intend. They don't promise what they can't emotionally sustain. They've watched people overextend, overshare, overcomplicate, and collapse from it. So they refine instead. Not out of coldness, but to preserve the bandwidth required for their few deep commitments. But that depth, it's invisible at first glance. And so they get misread as lacking depth by those who define depth as emotional noise, dramatic vulnerability, or performative openness. The irony? No one carries more psychological architecture beneath the surface than a Sigma INFJ. It just isn't on display. Part 5. Empathy without obedience. One of the most dangerous misinterpretations they face comes from their empathy. People see it as softness, as malleability, as a gap they can exploit. And for most, that would be true. But with a Sigma INFJ, empathy doesn't mean surrender. They can see someone's pain clearly and still walk away. They can feel someone's trauma and still set a boundary. They can love deeply and still choose themselves. This confuses people, because the assumption is that emotional intelligence equals emotional compliance. But the Sigma INFJ doesn't center your comfort. They center clarity. Their ability to feel you doesn't translate to an obligation to fix you. So when they stop responding, when they withdraw that perceptive energy, it feels brutal. But it's not cruelty. It's discipline. They aren't heartless. They just don't perform empathy to earn approval. Conclusion: not misunderstood, just rare. So what makes them misunderstood? It's not miscommunication. It's mismatch. They move quietly in a world addicted to performance. They interpret in layers while others skim surfaces. They connect with precision while others scatter energy for validation. They're not withholding to confuse. They're calibrated to conserve. And unless someone is patient enough to match their internal pace, unless someone is grounded enough to sit with the ambiguity, they'll keep misunderstanding them. They'll keep demanding signals that the Sigma INFJ never agreed to send. Because being known is not their goal. Being real is. And for those who can't tell the difference, they were never meant to understand.